you, Elisa. Dr. Allan Freeth has been Chief Executive of Telstra Clear since 2005. He is a member of the board of Save the Children, New Zealand, and he's involved in one of the World Economic Forum's Global Agenda Councils. It's the Youth Council. Please welcome Dr. Freeth.
Good evening. Garrison Keillor once said, "Nothing you do for children is ever wasted." There are some who say the business of business is business and it has no role beyond commerce and the activity of making money for shareholders. This was brought home to me in 2005 when, within a month of taking over as Chief Executive of Telstra Clear, I shut down the pornography channels on our TV service. The reaction was both fierce and unexpected. That bastion of progressive thinking and social conscience, the National Business Review, showed a rather unflattering photograph of me on their front page with a large caption proclaiming Chief Censor, ? The associated article quoted the then head of the Shareholders Association, Bruce Shepherd, saying I had no right to make these types of decisions. My mandate was to make money for the shareholders, and that was all. This type of nonsense crowded other media as well, and that was apart from the Christian Science Monitor, where I was poster boy for the month, I would add. And the logical conclusion of Shepherd's statement is that I should investigate all ways of making money, presumably drug manufacturing and distribution, maybe prostitution, well, that's legal. What about phone tapping and blackmail? Well, at least it's sort of in my core business, really. However, I shut down the channels for three main reasons, none of which was related to any religious belief which was wrongly attributed to me at the time, or because I was some type of prude. I shut them down first because the material was damaging an otherwise admirable brand. Our company employs a considerable number of women and people with children, and I couldn't see how I could look them in the eye on a daily basis. And finally, this industry contains elements of exploitation and criminality. But more importantly, it was just wrong. We made a similar decision, but a much far easier decision in 2008 when we were the first company to join the Department of Internal Affairs scheme that blocked internet access to New Zealand customers of child pornography sites. While that decision was easy, the consequences of this action in the context of internet freedom was very complex. Nonetheless, this decision just came down to the fact that no one can defend this type of evil, and it was the right thing to do. The question of why every child counts and why business should be interested and involved boils down to that fact. That is, it's the right thing to do. And fortunately for chief executives accused of dabbling or playing in social policy, the hard evidence, the hard numbers, and the economics fully support the statement. I don't intend to repeat the numbers. There are better people here this evening than I to do so and explain their significance. But as a businessman, I know that unless I address the issue of children, their health, their education, their poverty and well-being, it is going to cost my business and it is going to cost my shareholders in the long term. So the challenge for business is not should we be involved, but how far can we go legitimately to support programs and activities by using other people's money, namely our shareholders. Many of these shareholders will say, who provide the capital for my business and others, will say it's the government's job to address these issues. They, as individuals, have already paid their taxes. We, as enterprises, create wealth and pay taxes again. We employ people and support their families, and in doing so, that's enough. Perhaps. But businesses create what economists call externalities. We create dependencies, we create costs, and those costs are often borne by societies. And the example used by Garrett Hardin in the famous essay Tragedy of the Commons was the factory that grabbed profit for itself but spread the cost of its pollution across the community. If no man is an island, then no business is a continent to itself. I do not believe I have responsibility as an individual or an organisation to be my brother's keeper on an individual basis. It's true the world might be a better place if that were true, but according to evolutionary biologists, the only reason I jump in to save a drowning man is the belief that he would do the same for me. However, as a business, I do believe we have a responsibility for being part of the community and the nation, and ensuring we support democracy, human rights, protect the weak, and ensure that programs and society do this collectively. It won't be a surprise to you to know that I do believe in the market as an ideal. However, I know it fails, and the people it fails the most dramatically are the vulnerable and those without a voice. So from a shareholder wealth perspective, I do believe it's a legitimate part of business to support communities and social initiatives. The contra just means the cost of doing business is considerable. Crime, lack of skilled workforce, social disruption, and the like. I also believe from an ethical perspective, it is an obligation for business to be good citizens and to ensure their activities are a cause for good. In evolutionary terms, the lowest evolved organisms or species do not look after their young. They produce hundreds of thousands of offspring, and it's a numbers and survival game. As the world developed and mammals came to dominate with fewer offspring, the necessity for protecting and nurturing young became an evolutionary imperative. Then civilization and advanced societies appeared, and the responsibility to protect the young and the vulnerable became a community as well as a family obligation. Only the most ignorant, uncivilised and primitive societies fail to look after their children. Sadly, given some of the statistics about child abuse, domestic violence and poverty in New Zealand, one could question whether New Zealand comes close to that description. Business is part of society. Not only does business have an obligation to do good, business has an obligation to provide leadership and to speak out. It is my belief that we're on the eve of a process that will see a new business model evolving, a model underpinned by technology that places the power to speak out and act against governments and corporations in the hands of youth. And of course, I'm talking about social media. Businesses, like many institutions, will no longer be able to ignore the developing social movements of coming generations. For the first time, we are facing spontaneously forming collective consciences as true power on a global scale. It is activism as we've never seen it before. The implications are significant and well beyond the scope of this discussion tonight. However, if being human is not enough, then to survive and prosper in the new world, business and business leaders will have to step up to be involved in the affairs of communities, nations and people. But it's more than that. They should do so because it is the right thing to do. It is as simple, as human, and as decent as that. Thank you.